Hey, Intro to Psych students. We're on our last chapter videos. This is for chapter 16. Psychotherapy and treatment. I have to be honest with you, I kind of stalled making this last video, primarily because I knew this would be the last time I could talk to you via the video system. I'm hoping that's not the last time we get to talk, period. I mean, I know a lot of us are emailing each other back and forth with questions and so forth, but I hope that I get a chance to see you in the future. Maybe after your transfer, you can come by and say hi. Um, this chapter, of course, I became interested when I was 15, going on 16, if you recall the story of Mrs. Talk a Lot. And therapy is an interesting concept to me because our parents, when we were kids, told us not to talk to strangers, but yet we go to therapy, and who do we talk to? Talk to strangers. So here we have a therapist thinking to themselves, well, if they have a few more sessions, they'll be able to write their book and case histories. And then you have this client who's really attending therapy just to write an expose on how therapy takes too long. And so they have kind of ulterior motives. Of course, one of the fears that we have if we go and talk in therapy, that we'll get this kind of response, right? Very few clinicians, this isn't kind of an old school approach to therapy, the Freudian approach, sitting behind your client as they lay in a fainting couch. You saw that with the first drawing too. Most therapy is conducted two people sitting, facing each other, having a discussion, right? Um, Therapy has changed drastically, even in the time I practice to now. Now, a lot of our colleagues and friends are doing teletherapy or remote therapy, so to speak. They're doing it via Zoom, and it takes away the human component, but we're doing the best we can, just like our lectures, it's the best situation we can make it. But at least you're talking to the person directly. It looks like starting in fall, if we do go with still the remote model, I'll be doing some lectures live and some non-live, so they'll get kind of a combination. Around the 1980s, the insurance companies started changing the rules, and they said, you know what, we don't want to pay for a large number of sessions because they're businesses, right? Insurance companies are businesses and they want to save money. So they said, we're going to shrink the number of sessions you get. We'll shrink it to 12, one per month, which really isn't a lot. Which in some cases has shrank it to 6. Some cases they gave us one session. Now we need a session just to gather the information. So it forced therapists to change their model, right? How they did therapy. I think this cartoon sums it up for the single session therapy. You had to move a lot faster, that's for sure. Now, I don't know if you're aware of this, but there's a hotline, psychiatric hotline that you can call if you can't afford therapy, because therapy is still expensive. I mean, even if you're doing it remotely, it's still expensive. Unless you've got good insurance, you have to pay some cash there. So a student sent this psychiatric hotline phone number, and I'd like to read uh, what you get. And I always believe you pay what you get. The more you pay, the more you get, so to speak. Not in all cases, but in many cases. For example, take a look at some of these things you have to do. It says here, if you are obsessive, it says first, welcome to the psychiatric hotline. If you're obsessive compulsive, press 1 repeatedly. How does that help? If you're codependent, please ask someone to press 2. If you have dissociative identity disorder, right, multiple personalities, please press 3, 4, 5, and 6. It sounds like they're mocking the people. If you're paranoid delusional, we know who you are and what you want. Just stay on the line so we can trace the call. See, they're just feeding into it. If you're schizophrenic, listen carefully and a little voice will tell you which number to press. If you're bipolar, it doesn't matter which number you press, no one will answer. And if you're delusional, occasionally hallucinate, please be aware the thing you're holding on the side of your head is alive and about to bite off your ear. There's a psychiatric hotline information, and I don't believe in that at all. Okay, seriously. I have to say seriously because, the rest of the stuff was supposed to be serious. Right? We have guidelines as to what's proper and what's improper to do. The American Psychological Association had to put out these guidelines primarily because of violations, right? You guys remember the case study of little Albert, how he was treated so brutally in the research of John Broadus Watson, also known as the bad boy psychology, right? We had to start setting up some guidelines as to what was proper and what isn't proper. This is an interesting list of ground rules. Therapy is a collaborative effort. Don't expect your therapist to make decisions for you. That's so true because a lot of people just say, just tell me what to do. And of course, therapists, if they did tell you what to do and it didn't work out, you'd go blame them. You wouldn't take any responsibility for your own actions. Your therapist is not a substitute friend. This is so true because, you have a certain professional relationship. They're there for you, they're empathetic, and they're there to help you, but not necessarily be your friend, so to speak. Therapeutic intimacy does not include sexual intimacy. This is so crucially important because there have been violations and you're in a vulnerable state. So if you have a therapist that says, if we have sex, it can solve all your problems, stop seeing them. Find a new therapist, report that therapist. They obviously are a bad apple. Expect therapy to challenge you and challenge the way you think and act. It will change you. Don't confuse insight with change, right? It's easy to change our underwear. It's hard to change our lives. Don't confuse catharsis with change. I call this the bad burrito, If we have a bad burrito and makes our stomach go all crazy, if we go out and keep on eating that bad burrito, we haven't learned anything. So in therapy, if you have a cathartic moment, and you release all that emotions, but you still create those situations where you get all those emotions back, that's not good either. And don't expect change to happen overnight. Some people expect that therapy is a magic pill, and once they get therapy, they'll be solved forever. That'll be it. That'll be part of the process of therapy is getting people to change and recognize their patterns that they react to so they don't have to keep on coming back. It doesn't always work, but good therapy can be very, very successful. Now, I'd like to tell you the history of my personal experience with therapy. A couple facts first. My therapy that I conducted lasted approximately 19 years. My style was known as eclectic. It then moved to a cognitive behavioral style. I'm writing this out for you a little bit so you can see it. So 19 years, moved from an eclectic style to a cognitive behavioral style. I'll address that in a second. Here's my personal stationery of people that have influenced me from history. We've got over here Dali, Salvador Dali, of course Martin Luther King, Silver Surfer, there's your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, Venom, because we all got a bad side, good old Abe Lincoln, we've got U.S. Grant, Geronimo, The Thing, Frida Kahlo, Diego Rivera, and Vincent van Gogh, or Van Gogh, depending on who's pronouncing it. If you recall, my therapy started, let's start on this side, started with Mrs. Talk a Lot when I was 15, going on 16, cutting those lawns. And of course, I wrote the term stigma next to that because I believe it was the stigma of her son suffering from a mental illness that really affected that case study. Then around 1979, don't look at me like I should be dead. Maybe I am. Maybe this was recorded decades ago. I worked at La Casa. I'm sure you guys remember that agency, and worked with somebody named Wandering Tommy. And there I learned about how the dangers of addictions can really change people, as well as how you can't always help everybody you want to help. The timing has to be right. Once I entered college, I worked with Freddie the Catatonic, if you guys remember that case study, in the group home. And there I learned that I wasn't cut out to work with the seriously mentally ill individuals. There we go to the outpatient clinic in Midland, Michigan, and there I work with the ticker, and I realized that your environment, the people who are around you, like your family, can really help help you get through some tough spots, including some physiological things. From there, I worked at Cristo Rey, if you remember that case study of Rancho Grande. And I learned that some people have it in their own destiny to improve their livelihood. Then I got the job at Michigan State University. And we didn't talk about this case, but in abnormal psych or meeting in person, I like to talk about the case study of Keep Your Eyes Peeled. And that deals with an individual who had an anxiety disorder about putting anything close to her eyes. When you're in private practice, it taught me that sometimes you don't get paid right away. It takes a while for the insurance companies to kick in that money. And while I was at Michigan State at Mecca, that's when I went over to private practice. And I saw Mary, and I don't recall if we talked about Mary, but Mary was that individual who was beautiful on the outside and the inside, but she stole a lot of things from stores and would return them to get money so she could buy her cocaine. So this represents 19 years of me doing therapeutic process from 1979 to 1998. I really thought that once I came to California, I would continue my career in therapy. I loved it that much. I was doing therapy and teaching full time at the same time. But when I came to California, I found that their licensure was different. I was told that I'd have to kind of restart over the process, do a couple thousand hours of supervised clinical work. And I just thought to myself, you know what? I've already been through all those hoops. I've had a good career as being a clinician. I think I'm going to focus on teaching. And voila, here I am, teaching. When you go to see a clinician, it's important to find out what kind of degree they have, but also what kind of experience. In order to be a licensed psychologist in the state of California, my wife is one of them, you have to have a doctorate, PhD, PsyD, EDD. PhD, more research-based, PsyD, more clinical-based, EDD, more educational-based. To be a psychiatrist, you have to have an MD or DO, and the list goes on. So you can do a variety of different things with different degrees, but if you ever call an agency and you're interested in getting therapy, it's important to know what their philosophy is, their degree, but almost as important is how much experience do they have in working with issues like yourself. We're going to continue with this journey of therapy next time. Thank you for your patience.